And first up for general information, Mr. Dwyer.
Ron Ferrigno. Ferrigno.
Very well said. Thank you. Hold on. Here I am. Thank you for the pronunciation. Yeah, I guess we are presenting 5 locations. You might be familiar with the Mass DOT road widening project that's headed down Route 9.
No, I never heard of it.
Never saw it.
So right now we have a number of locations that we're going to be relocating signs, and there'll be a few locations that will have replacement signs for. These particular are all relocations, and there are 5 of them, and I can start in whatever order you want.
Let's go for the first one, give the address, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well,
291.
let me enable screen sharing. Do you have something you can bring up for those?
I do. I'm a little bit like Zeke here, not crazy technically savvy, but I might be able to figure it out. But you guys should have, they were emailed to you. Does everyone have
They
a
were,
copy?
but now that we're talking about it, so everyone can see, including the viewing audience.
Okay, hold on a sec. Let me see if I can.
You know, only people from North Hadley can call him Zeke.
I was married in Northampton. Does that count?
Really?
Let's see here. Bear with me. Screen share. It's going to take me a second to get to the right place, so hold on a second. That is not you. One 57992. Okay, this will be this is 291 Russell Street. This is the Vax store. I'm sure all of you guys have used this place. And this is the current picture of the sign, where we're just relocating the sign 10 feet back. I'm assuming everyone can see my screen.
Yes,
Yeah,
This is a kind of a superimposed picture of what we're doing. It also has a site plan
is
underneath.
this an internally illuminated sign?
It is an internally illuminated sign, and it will remain an internally illuminated sign. We're moving it 10 feet back just because of the road taking. It's actually going to go in the temporary easement, but well away from the property line.
Okay.
Any
Any
questions?
comments? Motion to approve the change?
so moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
aye,
Aye,
Any opposed? Is Mark on board?
not yet.
Okay, motion passes 4-0, 1 absent.
Thank you. The next location is coming up. This is 234 Russell Street. This is the former Cooley Dickinson Hadley Family Medicine. Waiting for the layout to upload. All right, this is a picture of the sign as it is, sort of. I think somebody took it down and leaned it up against the building currently, but that's what it looked like. And this has the site plan showing the existing location in orange. And in green is the new location, well behind the new property line. And the pictures below show the relocated area.
Is that gonna be this, that's basically a relocation of the picture of the same sign in kind, correct?
Exactly, yes, it'll be the exact same sign, just relocated back away from the new property line.
That's external, right? Illumination?
That is ground lit, correct, and that will be ground lit
That's fine.
again.
Any comments, questions? All in favor? Aye.
aye,
Aye,
Oh, wait a minute, somebody's gonna make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
second,
Motion second, all in favor? Aye.
aye,
Aye,
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Mark's still not on, right?
actually, he is in the waiting room.
Okay,
Well, call it 401, we'll just move on.
that's fine, yeah. Okay,
Next location, also simple, 199 Russell Street, the Countryside Vegetable Farm. Layout's pulling up now. Those are 3 pictures of the existing structure, and we're just relocating the existing structure. There is no lighting involved with this sign, and we're moving it way back to get it out of the parking area next to the greenhouse,
okay.
per the owner's request.
Okay, that's their prerogative.
Yes, it is.
Any other comments, any questions? If not, motion,
Motion to approve.
second,
motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Mark's here. Okay,
Unanimous.
motion passes unanimously. Next one,
Next one is 278 Russell Street. Layout's pulling up now. If everyone's familiar with this location. This sign is moving, you can see the superimposed position of the new location as
Yep.
compared to the existing location. And the site plan is this here. Blue is the existing sign location, proposed is in the pink. This sign is internally illuminated and will remain internally illuminated.
This is only the picture itself, correct? There's no
Yeah, there's
writing on it?
we're just relocating it as is. There's no writing on it.
That's right, no writing.
What business is it?
Good
Pulse,
question.
Pulse. It's advertising for Pulse.
I think it's actually the lot adjacent to Pulse.
I think it's Sweet Meadow Farm.
Okay. Yeah, when we did Pulse or its predecessor, we did,
Okay,
not for Pulse, when it was, when we were doing Lowe's, we gave them permission for an out parcel, a little strip mall down there.
Right, okay. Any other comments? If not, motion to approve,
Motion to approve.
second,
second. Any other comments? If not, all in favor? Aye.
aye,
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0, unanimous.
All right, and then my last for now, location is 322 Russell Street. This sign is internally illuminated, and it's moving from the island that it's on over to the side of the property. And I can show you the site plan. The existing location is in orange, and the new location is in green. Just about a foot or 2 feet behind the new property line. The picture on the bottom left-hand corner of this screen shows the new location. I think the new property line is that orange stake to the right, so it's like 2 or 3 feet behind that.
Okay. Any comments on this one? If not, motion,
Motion to approve.
second,
second. Any discussion, comments? If not, all in favor? Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 5-0. Very good. You're all set. We'll get these off to the building inspector, but he's sitting there listening anyway, so he knows it's coming.
Great, I appreciate, thank you for the process,
Okay.
and we'll be coming back to you soon
With more?
with more.
There's a lot of stuff on Route 9, that's true.
Yeah,
Okay. Very good. Good luck.
thanks.
Mr. Dwyer?
Andrew Black.
Hello,
Hello?
how you doing?
Good. Well, what can he do for you?
I sat in several weeks back on the plans for an in-laws. There was a few changes to the plan I had previously where he wanted me to enclose an opening from one structure to the other. All I had was a roof line connected. I enclosed that space to make it more of a breezeway. So it's kind of a pass through instead of an open space. It's the only change I was asked to make. I did get my notarized letter that I have for the building department. I have a fully filled out permit application and 7 sets of the planned physical copies that I can bring all to the town hall or wherever it need be to be picked up.
Okay. What's the address again?
358 River Drive. Hadley.
Okay.
Where's 358 approximately?
North Hadley, it's right near Cummins Road. The old, or Steve Kokoski's old house.
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
It's got the tobacco barn on it and the other outbuilding.
Okay, yeah. If you would just, how's the easiest way? Because because the way we do the filing fees, we used to charge a flat fee, and the Gazette went up ridiculously amount on their legal notices, and it was costing the town money to do that. So we changed the filing fee last year to be the cost of the legal notice, plus basically the cost of postage for sending out the letters, and then 10% on top of that. So I
Okay.
can't give you, okay, so what the thing to do is to bring the drawing or the application with the drawings and put them in a planning board mailbox
Okay,
within the next couple of days. I will pick them up. I will give a notice to the Gazette. They will give me a price. I will fill out the application and email it back to you. So make sure your email application is on the application.
okay,
And I will email it back. I will email you a copy of the application with a filing fee and sign, and then just go back to the town hall. You can either mail it in because you already have the drawings. And
Okay.
then show up for the public hearing. The public hearing, I would assume we would make it. Pyramid Chase. I would think June 6th we could do it, might Mr. Dwyer?
Yes, but I think this would be the only addition we want to put on. We might
Right,
not,
I agree. Yeah,
might not even want to have PVPC that night. This Chase, I think, is going to go long.
okay.
the June 6th, same time.
Yeah.
And
Now, the way we schedule public hearings, we schedule them at 6:45. So they're all scheduled at 6:45. Obviously, they can't start at the same time, so we'll do them in sequence. And we'll try to do yours maybe first, because yours will probably be fairly easy compared to the other ones that'll be on the agenda that night.
Great. I filled out all envelopes for all the abutters off of your website and put stamps on them. Do you want to use official envelopes or would you use those?
That's fine. You can put the envelopes on mailbox too.
Okay,
Okay, there's 2 sets, right?
yep,
Okay, that's perfect.
great.
Okay, so you'll save a couple of bucks on the filing fee. Well, we won't hit you for stamps.
Perfect. I misheard it. I thought I was supposed to do that portion.
That's fine. That's okay.
Okay,
Whether you do it or don't do it, you're gonna get charged for the stamps
Yeah,
anyway. So it's
no
not,
problem.
that's fine.
okay. Great,
So I will, the public hearing will be June 6th at 6, beginning at 6:45, and we'll probably take you up first because it'll be a relatively simple one compared to the
Okay.
other one that's gonna be on that night,
okay.
right?
I'll get that stuff in your mailbox tomorrow even.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Have a good one.
And that would bring us to Seth Rutherford.
Good evening, everybody. I think Tony Nabala is here with me too. We are here to talk about 14 West Street. I'm here to represent Richard Nabala. He has 1/3 interest. Tony and his mom have 2/3. And the family wants to keep it as farmland. And we put it up for sale. And local guy went to buy it. Farm Credit wouldn't give him credit because they couldn't prove that you could build a house on it. They came to the town. The town said that you need a special permit. So we weren't able, I believe, to go through. I might have that wrong, but that's what I believe I was told. And we wanted to, since then we left it on the market and all we had was developers call us for, all sorts of different stuff. And so Tony and I are here today to see, what the town's going to require. What we want to do is we pulled it off the market. We're going to go through the APR process, make sure that the land's protected. And, we really don't want to have to get tons of engineers involved and spend all this money and go through subdivisions. So, but we do have to prove to APR that you can put, a couple homes on there or whatever could get approved. So if it could be approved. And so here, we're here tonight to see, for one, if something could be approved. And if it could, how could you guys work with us so that as we start the APR process, when they reach out, that, we don't find that same hurdle, and, we're able to pull some type of money out of the property.
Do you
How
have
many
a
acres
drawing-
is it?
Do you have a
Think it's
drawing of the property?
Excuse me?
Do you have a drawing of the property we could look at to see what you're talking about?
we don't.
Even,
It's-
even the assessors map would be a help.
Hang on
Yeah.
a second, I can pull up the assessors. What is it, 14?
14 West, yeah, and
Yeah.
really, I think it's about 7.5 acres. Tony, I don't know if you know the exact.
Yeah, I think 7.1 or something.
Okay. And currently it's farmed. It's gorgeous property, right? And at the end of the day, somebody could buy a place on Middle Street or put a road or do something. And, just being Hadley residents our whole life is definitely something Richard does not want. And neither does Michelle. And, just hoping that there's a path to least least resistance for us here.
Well, APR, well, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but APR requires a survey of the property when you approach them, and you have to pay for it initially, and then they will reimburse you if you go through the APR program. So that would be step one, get it surveyed and
Yeah, I'm not sure if that is in fact their current policy. They've been reimbursing half of the cost. Let me first of all see if I can pull this up with,
I just reached out to a civil engineer, Michael Schaefer from Huntley Associates in Northampton, and he's going to come and do a survey of the property and just stake it so that we have it. Yes, that's it right there.
well, if you've got time, APR is meeting at the Red Barn in Hampshire College tonight, so you can go over there and get it from the official chiefs.
let me see if this will work now. So we have West Street here. North is at the top of the page. This parcel, I believe that's Shipman
That's right.
there. And Lois Warner.
Yeah.
On
How
that
much
side,
frontage do they have?
50 feet.
50 feet, okay.
Boyce
So-
passed away.
Well, then it's
Yeah.
the trust of which she is the
Yes, yes,
trustee.
That's right.
So this has come up several times. I've had multiple discussions with developers and with Mr. Rutherford on it. The corner lots, if you will, were deeded out after the adoption of the zoning bylaw. So the property really isn't grandfathered. If it had been this way prior to 1962, it would still support one house, even though it only has 50 feet of frontage. That's the state statutory minimum. But it isn't eligible for that. The geometry of the parcel is such that you cannot have a 40-foot or 50-foot right-of-way for a street and still meet the 150-foot lot depth on both sides. So it is not eligible for like a Hadley Place type or a Dare Place road into a field. It's not wide enough. So what I had suggested to Mr. Rutherford was that the option open to him, to the property owner, seems to be the very small subdivision. And they'd have to get a layout that would create a couple of lots in here. And then you could demonstrate. Now, I don't know if APR would require you to go through the exercise of actually getting a very small subdivision approved, or whether they would be satisfied by seeing a drawing showing that it could be approved.
Meeting all,
Yep.
local bylaws.
Yeah, you don't meet all of the very small subdivision depends on the planning board waiving a lot of its requirements to allow you to basically build a driveway here instead of a full-blown subdivision road to serve a couple of properties.
Mhm.
I don't think I only speak for myself, but I don't think we've ever done more than 2 lots in a very small subdivision, and with the understanding that the balance would remain undeveloped.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I mean, we definitely don't want to, I mean, if I was a neighbor, I'd freak, and I think to get something like this approved would be very controversial. So I mean, maybe, I guess maybe our next step is reaching out to, APR and seeing if that's all that they would need was just a drawing from an engineer showing that, with a special permit, we would be able to meet the bylaws,
yeah, it's not a special permit, it's subdivision approval.
subdivision approval. Okay.
That's a different critter.
Okay.
But yeah, just find out whether they need a actual approval or whether they would be satisfied with evidence that you have a viable application.
Okay. Okay, and do you have any insight on, I remember when I did 44 Lawrence Plain here, it was a long time ago. There's an organization in like a land trust organization that helps us go through this process. Do you know who that is?
That would be Kestrel Trust.
No trust.
Kestrel Trust. Okay, is that a K or a C?
Hey,
Okay, okay. 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 I don't know, Tony, do you have anything else?
No, I think that's fairly straightforward so far.
Okay, all right, so we appreciate your time. You might hear from us again, but we'll start the process. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good luck.
Yes, very much.
Have a nice evening.
good evening.
Ready?
And that's all I have for visitors.
Mr. Comia?
Can we just,
Oh, public hearing,
public hearings?
public hearings.
The Hadleaf is asked to be continued for another month.
To June
and
6th.
To May 6th, to June
June
6th.
6th.
So let me, so I'll make a motion to continue to June 6th at the request of the applicant.
You have a second? Any
I would
discussion?
second that.
I thought Mike seconded it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Then we have the public hearing for the zoning articles. I'll read the article because as it appeared in the Gazette, the Hadley Planning Board will conduct a Zoom public hearing on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023, beginning at 6:45 PM. Zoom details at the end of the notice. Purpose of the hearing is to review the following proposed amendments to the Hadley zone bylaw. Amend section 3, table of uses to add food trucks to each zone as to permitted use or not. Also to amend section 1B by adding the definition of a food truck. Complete text of the zoning bylaw and map are available upon request by contacting hadley@ma.org, planning@hadleyma.org, or the town clerk. Published twice in a Gazette, 17th and April 17 and 24. So I think everybody's read the notice, read what they're going to be. That basically in the permitted zones and the residential zone, food trucks will not be permitted. In the other zones, they'll all be permitted. The select board will be the licensing or permitting authority. They're going to adopt a regulation pertinent to what's required to get a license. And then section 1B defines what a food truck is in significant detail.
Is this a general bylaw?
This is a zoning bylaw.
This is a zoning bylaw. The food trucks, the licensing of the food trucks will be a select board regulation.
Okay, that's,
So what we,
Similar to a planning board regulation.
yeah, what we discovered when town council, let me just pull up. When town council did their final bylaw review, they pointed out that the select board already has regulatory authority over hawkers, peddlers, and transient vendors.
Yeah.
Under that authority, they can, they already have a procedure in place. So it's kind of like discovering down on the riverfront that there are other boards that have jurisdiction like Conservation Commission. We don't really need to create our own set of rules. They're out there already. So the select board, once we've authorized the use at all, then the select board can proceed to issue licenses for it in conjunction with the Board of Health. And won't need any, one question that came up at the bylaw, or at the town meeting review was, where's the residential district? So we just have to be prepared to, reel off the streets that are in the residential district, Woodlawn et al. But that's going to be not, I don't see that that'll be it. Controversial once people understand those are tiny lots up there.
Any other questions or comments? If not,
I'll make a
entertain a
motion to recommend this to town meeting.
okay. Do we have a second?
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Comia.
Hi, board. So I think since our last meeting, I sent over to the board 2 documents, or at least 2 documents and some explanation of follow-up that my colleague Karen Martin, who is our housing planner, provided based on her conversations with the Department of Housing and Community Development regarding 40R. So I know that in talking or in speak or in, via email with Bill and Jim with regards to your future agendas, Karen Martin will be attending your following meeting, presumably to discuss 40R or other housing related bylaws. And I think at PVPC, we've started to split some of those particular tasks up because she is a housing planner and that's her specialty. So I'm looking forward to seeing, the board move forward on that. So with that said, there was a resource document that was submitted to the board with 40R, as well as I know that you were exploring and considering adoption of a zoning bylaw amendment with regards to battery energy storage systems. And I shared with you what a model bylaw ordinance that we're preparing, and it was prepared with the assistance of municipal planners from Belchertown, Ware, and Wilbraham. So within our region, and that particular bylaw was specific to battery energy storage systems as a singular use. So without being attached to a solar development, which is probably more typical, as I know there have been a lot of towns that have adopted or have approved solar development with a battery, and that actually probably was amended right after a town had approved a solar development, because through experience when I was working as a town planner, the planning board had approved those particular solar developments, but the developer would come in right after asking for, can we add this battery? So I think trying to navigate those particular trends, and many communities in the Commonwealth looking at battery energy storage systems and adopting bylaws. I think it's probably reflected in a lot of the bylaws to just allow those types of uses where you typically allow solar. I know some, and some of the I think I've heard of some cases, some case law with regards to how the Commonwealth may be looking at those particular singular uses in towns that have prohibited them. But I also know that towns have prohibited them as a singular use. So, I think with that kind of guidance, and I still continue to follow it as we craft this particular model. I think understanding where where you may be as a board in looking at these regulations, but also are some of the other communities in the Pioneer Valley where they may be, that will help us refine this bylaw. So that's where we're left off with regards to those last two things that I provided to you. I'm glad that Tom and Dee Dee are on. I still have to still keep in touch with regards to those building permits, those common building permits, so we can finalize that permitting guide. But I think that's relatively simple because the majority of the guide has been already completed. So those are some of the work products and part of the work plan that we're currently working with the board on. And again, as I mentioned in an email to Bill and Jim, for the remainder of the fiscal year, which you have 3 meetings left, and I overheard Bill say that June 6th seems to be a very busy meeting, but myself or Karen Martin will be able to assist however you need us.
I like the way the battery bylaw, I think that's a good job, the way you put that together. I will take that and tune it to the town of Hadley. I talked to the fire chief about solar batteries, and he basically says that I said, how do you to extinguish them? Everybody's heard the nightmares trying to put out a lithium battery fire. And he said, according to basically I would say NFPA, but the way the fire department and a lot of others treat this is to just let the battery burn itself out and to contain the fire so that it doesn't spread to other things. He said, because trying to put out a lithium battery fire is an effort in futility, and that it just continues to feed on itself. So he said the real goal is to prevent it from spreading to other adjoining places, spaces, whatever the word might be.
Yeah, as we were discussing it, just the fact that the battery storage facilities would go where we have potential a solar array over the Aquifer Protection District, question mark.
Yeah, they definitely would be allowed over the Aquifer Protection District, but by themselves, from what I understand, the battery burning itself out is really not much contamination because it's not leaking anything. It's just a fire, very hot fire.
But if you put water on it, or somebody puts water on it and it overflows to protect you, well, we can discuss that when it comes before us.
I think the biggest thing is the fire chief says that the intention is not to put water on it, just to let it burn in its own container. I mean, obviously, if it starts to spread, yeah, you're right. That's a different story.
Mark has a question.
But I think that's something that is to be discussed more with the fire department as we get closer to putting this into a zoning bylaw.
And then if it's going to go in, certainly there's going to be wires leading to it, but we'll discuss that when we get the full bylaw in front of us then.
Yeah.
And before we really do consider the 40R, I think we have to shore up our responsibility for how do we assess the third option under the affordable housing bylaw. For example, we got it tucked to us pretty good on the Colony Drive one, that there is nothing we have on paper that indicates how much money we should ask for. And Mr. Comier made a good suggestion. So I went to see the assessor. And my thought, in a subdivision, the cost of a building lot, and it's remained pretty steady, average 130. And if we're talking about East Street Commons, we could say 10% of the housing sales for the last number of years. The reason I like to do it within our town, it gives it more credibility. And number two, the reason I think we need some numbers that are going to be available to the developers so they can choose their option with a little bit more facts. Because when we talk about transfer of development rights parking, if an individual does not have sufficient parking, he can buy so many acres of farmland, and that can be added as credit to his parking. So we get the numbers all the time, and it's an average of the APR sales, or what APR is giving for an acre. Right now, it's $9,500, and it's an average in the state, and we've used that for several years now, and no one questions it. So I think we got to give some thought to that, to shore up that part of our bylaw.
So I know Mark's been trying to ask a question, but having brought this to the top, the nature of 40R is there's no buyout of affordability. To qualify for 40R, the district basically has to require at least, is it 25% or is it more?
It's,
25.
yeah, at least 25.
Okay, so there's no issue in creating a 40R about a buyout of affordability. It's not an option. The state requires it as a condition of approving a 40R.
It will be built. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, and if
Someone-
someone.
Let Mark be waiting for it. We'll come
Okay.
back.
All right.
Mark?
I was trying to just get a comment or a question in when we were talking about the battery storage. I just wanted to make sure I was clear, and anyone listening is clear. I think it was presented to us that some town categorically did not allow battery storage in their town, and they were sued and they lost. But are we subject to that? Does anyone believe we're subject to being sued if we say it can be in the industrial zone? If we give them an option, or is that a suable offense if there's not enough, viable land in that zone?
If I could reply to that,
Yes.
it wasn't a suit. It was a town that proposed a bylaw prohibiting battery storage. And the proposed bylaw was rejected by the Attorney General's office, municipal office, when they reviewed it.
Okay.
In the past, communities like Amherst at one point can sue the Attorney General to overturn that decision. So I think we would expect to see, if we adopted prohibit it everywhere in town in a zoning bylaw, that the zoning bylaw would be rejected by the Attorney General. It's not the last word, but it's pretty close to the last word, because you decide where you want to pick your fights.
Yeah, I don't think anybody proposed the battery storage in Wendell. That's probably the last place you'd want to put a battery storage system.
Yeah, land is cheap. You can put a bigger one in,
Nobody lives there.
all the more.
Yeah. Leakage.
Yeah, well, I mean, supposedly, the National Grid and Eversource have, I don't want to call it a map, but they have a concept of where they would like to see battery storages put for storing these solar and wind power energies, because of both production of said energy and the use of said energy. And this area around here was kind of a prime source, because there is Hadley has a lot of solar power for its landmass, both on houses and on the farmlands. And other areas of the state, not so much. For whatever reason, this particular area has a lot of it. I couldn't guess why. So Eversource is looking to Eversource would like to see battery storage put up more in our particular area. Hampshire, this part of Hampshire County, I would just call it more than a particular town. There may be some other areas because there's a lot of solar and wind. Yeah.
I also
Mike.
thought Mr. Corbett was saying something about that particular
Lot.
electrical branch lent itself because of, and I don't know if it was how many phases it had or whatever. Did anyone else pick up on
Yeah,
that? or-
exactly. There
Yeah.
are 4 trunk lines, for lack of a better word, that came in there.
Yeah,
And
so,
So
yeah,
they wanted
exactly.
us to fit our bylaw to allow Eversource to utilize what it had what they already had in place.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, we'd have to get a better explanation of that, because I remember that's kind of what I was alluding to. And, I don't know if we get it from, I guess, well, maybe, put the burden on him. Ask him to get some kind of a map of that stuff as opposed to us going searching.
And just remember, these batteries, standalone batteries, have nothing at all to do with green energy, because the preponderance of electricity being generated that's going to be going into them is not coming from solar or wind. It's coming from nuclear, coal, and natural gas.
Well, it's coming from the grid, whatever it's
Yeah,
producing.
exactly. And the grid in
Right.
Massachusetts is probably at best 15% green.
I mean, there is an argument that the solar is, those other sources are predictable loads, or not loads, I should say inputs. And the solar is less predictable input, and so a place to store it. I mean, I get that argument, but I'll still stand by my goat mill because it makes Joe smile. So
Solar, even though you may have I'll use myself as an example. On my house, I have an 11.4 kilowatt system. Well, during the course of the day, the most that ever puts out at peak power has been like 10.9 or 11 kW. And if you look at the output, it's the perfect bell-shaped curve. Low in the morning, peak at noontime or around noontime, and then it gets the other half, tapers off in the evening. And during the full sunny day, it's a perfect bell-shaped curve, like I said. So the 11 kW system over the course of a day, in the winter, that's not producing a whole lot because you have less sunlight, different angle, less hours of sunlight, the peak hour of the day. And during the summer, I can get maybe 90 kW out of it. So it varies a lot over the course of a year what the system produces.
and more people are adding solar. I plan to add solar in the next few years, and I'm not, an outlier. So I think that's going to keep adding to the grid, and so a place to store it makes sense. I just, I think we're going to put some good thought into where. So maybe in Tommy's backyard.
Mm.
Okay, you had something to say before, Joe?
Well, I think before we start jumping ahead for other ones, I think we've got to shore up our own, the way we measure the amount of people that are going to contribute to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We got reamed out pretty good at that last time because we had no direction, we had no input, and they could give us whatever they want, and basically that's what they're doing. So if we could come up with something like the lot value or 10% of the assessed value of a house, at least we'll have something on paper. So I don't know, do we want to think about it for a couple of weeks, or is it
Why don't you come up with some
idea?
ideas? Come up with some theories, Joe. Come up with some ideas.
Okay, I'll come up with the idea. And
Don't use a formula, by the way.
Well, don't tell Joe what to do. Let him come up with his
Yeah.
idea and we can talk about it.
Well, if my idea is not very good, someone's got to come up with a better idea. We just can't leave it hanging out there.
No, I know, but let's listen, we'll come up with some ideas. We can talk about it and see if maybe we can together take your idea and make it better.
Okay,
I do want to keep working on this, but the last time we tried to adopt a bylaw, we weren't, I guess, sufficiently prepared, and it turned into an amazing time sink. We spent hours going around in circles.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd like to keep touching on it, but we're in the position now that we don't have any subdivisions pending that could be affected by it, and we don't have any senior housing pending that could be affected by it. So this is a good time to be talking about it, but we also don't have to drop everything.
No,
To do
that's after, but May 16th, if you get something together, Joe, we can't have any public hearings. All it can be is a discussion date because of town
Okay.
election.
yeah, and Ken put the bee in my bonnet on that. Ken, thank you very much. So. Mm,
Okay,
Yeah, I resent in that list of various documents and resources what the board was talking about. It's dated November 21. So you definitely it has been part of your conversation for almost a year and a half. And so, just knowing that, obviously there is some additional thought. I think when you meet with Karen next week, depending on or at your next meeting, I'm going to provide her some context for this particular meeting. That could be something, Joe, if you have a particular way that you may be looking at it. Those resources that I sent are examples of where other places in the Commonwealth have adopted payment in lieu of policies. And I think if you just recall, this is a planning board regulation. It's a policy. It's not
Right.
something that needs to be passed at town meeting. So it's just a matter of the planning board agreeing that this is the policy that they want to move forward with.
Do you know if the Attorney General's office has ever rejected a zoning board of policy on this issue?
That's a good question. No, I don't know. Obviously, sometimes we learn of it when we have to interact with a lawsuit.
The AG does not review planning board regulations.
Okay.
That would be something that an aggrieved party would appeal to a court. Excuse me.
So, well, I guess for clarity for your following meeting, with regards to 40R, obviously that requires a bylaw. So is the intention of is it more understanding the various things that are part of it, or starting with some bylaw language?
I think it would be really helpful to see how Northampton has structured their 40Rs. I understand that they're doing it on almost a specific to each project basis.
Okay.
And maybe something a little more or a little less focused, if there's something around here.
Northampton, South Hadley, they have recently started developing in their 40R district, and then of course East Hampton too. So I think there are examples.
Okay, if you could send us some examples in advance so we could just see just a variety of how people are attacking this.
Sure.
So is South Hadley's development, are the developments taking place along the zone of public transportation? Do you know?
Presumably it's around a PVTA line. I think it's in their Falls district. So I think there is.
So
But-
who,
I don't know if there's any buses that go down in the Falls District, but
no, Ken, where is the impetus coming from trying to have Hadley adopt this 40R? I have never heard a groundswell coming from townspeople. Is it being directed by Pioneer Valley? Is it directed by the state?
It's directed by us. We want to talk about it.
Well,
wanna talk
that's
about
what I'm saying. So we want to talk about it exactly. We should be informed, but also we should be aware that, oh, we're not going to put a bylaw together for the next town meeting either.
yeah. I guess the question is, why did we just find out about it? Because the zoning board of appeals rejected Econo Lodge. And that's why we found out about it. No, I never heard about it. Not that I know everything, but that's why we're talking about it, because the zoning board rejected it.
And it's been around for about 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. This was, I think it may even predate the Baker administration.
Yeah,
We never heard about it. Doesn't hurt to learn about it.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
saying that. But the reason we're hearing about it is because somebody's trying to get something done.
You know, is it
Which is fine.
appropriate for Hadley? Maybe, maybe not. But look, we don't know if we don't talk about it and learn about it.
I
Well,
agree.
the CDC told us about it.
So,
I don't know, Joe, I can't speak for, but I think that there is a groundswell of people that were disappointed that the ZBA did not, that they passed on that opportunity. And so I think there's a certain groundswell that's looking for options to avoid that happening again.
yeah, and that option has been appealed. So that option is under judicial review, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Who is it appealed to? The land court?
No, it's appealed to the Executive Office of Housing and Community Development.
Oh, wow.
It's the same appeal route as if it were a unfriendly 40B.
Uh-huh. So then, if they override the ZBA's decision, then a group of concerned citizens hire Michael Pill, and there you go.
Well, we don't, there's several things they could do. They could overturn the appeal, they could uphold the decision, or they could remand it.
Yeah,
Those are three basic ideas,
sure.
and we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Well, the housing court, I've never heard of them only working in one.
Joe, no, don't discuss it. No comments, please. Not appropriate, because it's under appeal. Not a good idea. We'll let the EOC, what is it, EOCD or EHOCD?
DHCD.
EHCD.
yeah.
What's the executive office and then the departments under the executive office?
Yeah.
Well, The planning
At
board
the
did
old,
vote 5-0 to support it with some qualifications, as I recall.
At the old Don, what's his name, office, Joe?
Pardon?
That's the office that Don used to be in?
No, this is a special one
Okay.
that Sunderland went through and several.
Oh,
other-
that one, okay, all right, okay.
Bill, the 40R legislation has been out since actually 2004, so almost 20 years.
Wow.
So could somebody outside of the planning board bring a 40R zoning change to planning board if they got 25 signatures on it?
For annual town meeting, it would require 10 signatures. For the special town meeting, it requires, I'm not sure how many signatures on a special town meeting, but to bring an article to our annual town meeting, it would be 10 signatures on a petition. of registered
Well,
voters.
I think we should try to control it then, because if it comes to town meeting and it passes, it may just create a nest of worms, can of worms.
All
We
the more
gotta be in
reason
front
to
of it.
investigate it and talk about it.
Excuse me, Mark?
No, I was just saying, yes, and that's all the more reason
Yeah.
for what Jim said, that we should look
Yeah.
into it and understand it.
Yeah,
We have had a history. It hasn't been a problem recently, but in the past, when there has been community initiated zoning petitions, that we've often found them to be problematic because they're written in isolation without thinking about how they work together with the other parts of our bylaw.
sure.
So it's always better for these substantive things to have to be working on it ourselves. I did send around an article I found about how the Attorney General or the governor is sort of cracking down on a town that decided to not adopt MBTA zoning. I don't know if people had a chance to look at that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Nor-
I saw it.
Norwood.
That's interesting.
Norwood, was it Norwood,
Norwood, I think, you're right.
Yeah.
which is south of Newton, which is probably a pretty ritzy area.
Yeah,
Well, this is very similar to the town of Weston that never had anywhere near 10% of its housing deemed affordable. And it went back and forth, the land court, the Superior Court, for 12 to 15 years. So to be determined.
anything else for Ken?
I guess we might at some point, maybe the next time you are back. I don't, as I said, I don't think that the first June meeting is going to be, it's going to be kind of busy. Maybe for the second June meeting, the 20th.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have a lot of things we sort of left as loose ends that good ideas, implementation of the master plan, for instance. And maybe we just go through some of these threads that we've talked about and see what some of them we just haven't gotten to because there's a hotter brush fire in front of us. But I'd like to just do sort of a review of what we've had for, I know you did send, and I have somewhere, the list of tasks that we had on for several of the past years, and various, it's almost as if as many have dropped off as have gotten accomplished because we found something hotter and more pressing that had to be dealt with. But I'd like to just sort of recap what we've been working on, what you're currently working on, and we'd also be happy to have a suggestion from you if you have any for things that, based on the fact that you worked with us for what, 3 years now?
3.
Or is it?
Oh, well, I've been with PVPC for 4 years now. And
Okay.
yeah.
So pretty much for 4 years, that maybe there are some things that you think we haven't thought to look at that you think a town like us should look at.
Rules and regulations. I think
Yes.
we've kind of been like piecemealing it, and I feel like I have resources that have they're in various states of draft. So maybe like really trying to figure out how to address that in the coming year.
So I did come across, and I'll just send this to you directly. At some point, I apparently did start going from town to town and grabbing development roadmap type things and checklists. So
Oh.
I have a random collection of them that I will share with you. Not necessarily for what they say as much as for the formatting of them. You may have these, you may have access to, I'm sure you would have access to these, but I just happened to put a little collection together, so.
Yeah, no,
I'll-
that would be helpful. I think having the opportunity going through the permitting guide and speaking to Tom's department, I think that there's definitely an opportunity for some sort of coordination, whether or not that's specific to development review. I know that the building department is utilizing electronic permitting. I don't know how the planning board or other boards are doing that, but what ends up happening and what a lot of the conversations in some of the communities, and I don't know if this is a perception in Hadley, is that permitting can be a dog and really take a time depending on, the coordination of the various departments and boards. Some volunteers, some staffed. And so getting to interact with the various boards, specifically the building department, in other communities, I think maybe just trying to figure out how to, if there is a perception, I don't know. But any sort of coordinated effort there. And I think, Bill, to your point about development checklists and roadmaps, trying to figure out how to make that efficient if you're interacting with, maybe some perception that it isn't. But I think, yeah, taking a look at that, the permitting guide will help a lot. And once that's finalized, then, that'll be another tool for the town to get people on the starting, where they need to for the permitting process.
Great.
Are we all set with the riverfront permitting? Has that fire burnt out?
Mr. Tom could answer that one better than us.
He's kind of shaking his head.
No, I don't think, I haven't heard anything from town council, what's going on with that, so.
That's under an appeal right now, Mark.
Okay.
I
So we're kinda
suspect,
waiting- Penny? Go ahead, Bill.
yeah, I suspect a lot of people are keeping an eye on how that litigation comes out before they decide whether to get in line or raise a fuss.
Yeah. So,
And I was just musing about Russell School. I went there from September 1960 to June of 1963. That's, to date myself, that's before anybody heard about the Beatles. Joe Zagranic was still in dental school, okay? And it was built in 1894. That's before anybody remembered the Maine. And McKinley was not even elected president, much less assassinated. So it's a long time ago.
okay. Anything else for Ken?
So actually, as I see Dee Dee there, I know that at one point I sent got some sort of a electronic permitting designed for planning boards. And I think I shared it with Jim, who may have looked at the sample. Did we ever figure out if there is a planning board module for the permitting program you're using?
I'm looking into that again, because actually I want to find out about the annual inspections too, if we can add that onto it. Because I know it's, the Board of Health has their setup now, and their annual inspections are pretty similar to kind of how ours are. So that's my next thing. But yes, I have to contact him this week about that, and I will double check with him again. They were working on with another town on doing the planning, but at the time they didn't have it all set up yet. But I'll see now if they got any progress on it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
I have a Gazette invoice for the public hearing on June 6th for the Chase Bank for $440.26.
I would move to pay it.
I'll make a motion to pay the Gazette for 4026.
I would second it.
You have a motion second? Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 5-0. Thank you. You have anything, Tom? No.
You know, the Chase Bank is owned by JP Morgan, which is the largest bank in the country, just for a little background.
Okay. Anything, anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I would just like to, did you all get your notification about what your pension plan is worth when they take it out of our pay? I know they take $7.90 out of our quarterly pay each time we get the check. And just let you know what a great influx of money after 40-something years on the planning board. My balance is $359.02.
Oh, you could take us all out for dinner and drinks at Titans Roadhouse.
Well, I hope your retirement fund is doing better. And
Should have served on the Council of Governments.
And in fact, this last issue, the change in value was minus $2.51, but the expenses were $3.50. So it's not working very well. In case
And how much did it cost to mail that to you?
I was going to go through that, but you beat me to the punch. Thank you.
I ran for this office for the profits. I guess I miscalculated.
Right.
Thank you for that inspiring information, Joe. All right. Anybody else have anything?
I have nothing else.
Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.